And on that wide angle, yeah, that's him. That's a winner right there. That's crazy. That's a line of cameras. Alright, so I'm gonna introduce you. This is the wide camera and this is your personal camera.
Sweet.
Let me move this towards you a little bit.
Move it on. Move it on.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Alright, cool. So I'm gonna introduce you. Even though we already had one great conversation. that was a great combo. That's not done yet, but I'm just going to say 3, 2, 1. Then I'm going to say introduce myself, and then let people know who you are. I know you're Nomad. Do you want to go by a different name for this interview, or it's up to you?
Why wouldn't I?
Some people prefer their government when it comes to professional work versus their nickname, but I do business as Juice Jones. That's why I don't mind, because I'm known as Juice. The check says the white, but I'm known as Juice.
That's funny as shit.
Yeah. Alright, so you go? Alright, cool. Alright, so
let's just talk and see where it goes.
Alright, 3, 2, 1. Hey, it's your boy Juice back with another episode of Get Home Safe. We on Mental Health Monday, but Get Home Safe. Here, my boy Nomad. What up, boy?
What's good with you, bro?
Chilling. Tell the people who you are and what it is that you do.
My name is Nomad the Native.
Mm-hmm.
To some people, to other people, I'm Dwayne.
Mm-hmm.
By night, it's like nah. By night, I make music. It's like nah. But I am a musician. I play the rap vocal.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm a little bit of an executive producer on my music, and sometimes the music of my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And by day, I do case management. I'm a social worker.
Okay. How did you get into the life of social work?
I was doing other work in the mental health field,
mm-hmm.
and I kind of just parlayed my experience, as well as I have a degree in psychology.
Tell me more, because I'm just finding out about this fresh.
Yeah,
so tell me more about this degree and bachelor's.
Yeah, so I got a bachelor's in psychology from Frostburg State University.
Okay. Shout out to the Frost.
Yeah.
Okay, how was that experience for you in school?
It was cool.
Was it fun?
I enjoyed school. I enjoyed the social elements of school. I was not the biggest fan of some of the educational elements of school. But that's because there's like this pressure that all learning must lead to employment, and it just kind of warps the entire idea of it warps it for me.
Okay, that's unfortunate, but that's real. No, it is. Those are facts. This is facts. It's facts.
It's facts.
Yeah,
I'm just being honest about how I feel.
Okay, how you about to say something?
No,
you sure?
Yeah,
I mean you could.
I have no idea what I was gonna say. Yeah,
you good?
Yeah.
Just was that one of the? Was that off the top where the lights was at? Was that just what came off?
The lights? I was just talking about.
No, all right, cool. Anyway, so what is life as a social worker like?
It's like caretaking.
Okay, tell me
more. It feels like caring for people.
Do you have to care in order to be a social worker?
Not necessarily, but like the activities, the actions are acts of care, literally. You know what I mean? Like they're acts of service.
Yeah.
If we're translating it over to love languages, it's literally acts of service, acts of care. You know what I mean? You don't have to be super emotionally invested in all this. You know what I mean? Like up all night worried about these people. I mean, granted, I think there's a certain level of like strategizing and thought you need to implement outside of just the being in the moment with a client.
Yeah.
But also, there are boundaries. You should have boundaries so that like you got your life outside of your work life. But you know what I mean? Like when you spend your whole 8 hours or whatever, however many hours, like giving people, like make sure people are going to the doctor and getting checked out, and you know what I mean, is that a good idea? Should we do this instead? Or you know what I mean, have you taken your medication today?
So you help people prioritize.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like in or just follow through with things, or helping coordinating the care around this thing or that thing. Like can I get you, you know what I mean, can I, like I gotta schedule a physician's appointment so that you get your medication. Me doing that, you know what I mean? And then it's up to you to follow through, but like that's an act of care. It's just like how your parents set up doctor's appointments for you when you was a little kid. Like you think about what a person needs, and you plan and execute around what they need for their life and living.
What's a pro and con of being a social worker?
Pro is a pro is like having my schedule relatively flexible and unpredictable. Like there's no 2 days are going to be the exact same. So there's kind of like a little bit of fun in that freedom. Because you know what I mean, one day I may have to go to court to help somebody out. Another day I might just be jumping from house to house, making sure, just doing check-ins, just saying how you doing. And then other days it's like there might be a crisis, and you know what I mean. You're trying to help somebody in the middle of a crisis, like navigate. All right, so how are we going to what's the next steps? How are we going to like move forward from this moment? How do we manage this moment? So,
okay.
But a con would probably be honestly, a con of it is it's just like it's weight. It's heavy.
Okay.
And like,
tell me more. Like, in what sense is it heavy? Like, give me an example.
It's like residue. It's like emotional residue. And you're dealing with people who may have gone through various traumas. Them recalling those traumas is like heavy. Helping somebody process through this moment that you can't necessarily solve, but you can help like incrementally. Like, I can't fix it right here and right now. You know what I mean? Like all the things that may be weighing down on a client and like causing them stress or messing with their functioning, or you know what I mean, hampering their day-to-day life. There could be like 10 things, and they all require a process to solve each and every one of those 10 things. And today, all we can do is this little piece. All we can do is a drop in the bucket, as opposed to a whole pool of problems. So, like, and that can be heavy. You know what I mean? Because like, you know that there's this stress and there's this weight, and like at any given, like there are days where, you know what I mean, like they could decompensate. Like your client could decompensate, and
you got to define that word.
Decompensate is like the opposite of compensate. Like if you got something going on, you compensate for it, and you can hold it. That weight is throwing you off. Decompensate is to be like, all right, well, the weight is throwing me all the way off.
So it's when the weight breaks the person.
Yeah, it's when symptoms and so forth they start to go in the opposite direction of progress. Yeah,
so that affects them in their health. Literal health, that affects their mentality. That could also affect how they treat people around them.
Yes, it plays out in a number of different ways. So like another way of like that residue or the weight is like being able to assist somebody, to help somebody that may not necessarily be willing to help themselves. Can be a frustrating position to be in.
Because for you, you're like, it's so simple.
And that's another thing, is like, especially when it's not simple. Because like when it's simple, it's like, oh, look at this little thing you could just do to fix everything, and they're like, oh, I won't do it, and things go awry around them because they won't do the simple thing. Sometimes, and maybe not that exaggerated.
No, I got you. But it's like, you know, you're seeing it, even if they say they're gonna do it, and then you see their actions aren't lining up with what they want to do or said they want to do for themselves. That's the frustration.
And it's heavier. It's more. It can be more frustrating or more disappointing or whatever. You know what I mean? However you want to judge it or look at it. It can be a little bit more intense when you know that it's not a simple solution. And because when it's a simple solution and somebody's just actively avoiding a simple solution, you almost feel like you'll get it. You know what I mean? It's almost like you can look at it like, all right, whenever you're ready, that simple thing is, you're good. Just like whenever you're ready to stop. You like, I don't want to say tripping, but whenever the things ease up for you and you're able to see that the thing is that simple, just flip the switch. All right, bet you can flip the switch. But when it's the things that are like that require a long process, a long format of you know what I mean, we got to do this thing, we got to go to this person, we got to have this conversation, we got to pay this money, we got to do this thing, then we got to wait. And then the thing comes, and then you start using whatever the thing is to help, like, you know what I mean, whether it be medication or...
That weight part is when things fall apart.
Any part of that is when things can fall apart. So it's like, imagine a person being kind of in their own way, and you're trying to help them, and you're trying to help them through any one of these steps in the process. And at any given point, it's like what is it? It's like the egg race. You ever play that at like field day? It's like when you put an egg on a spoon and you gotta put the spoon in your mouth and you run, like you walk across as fast as possible without dropping the egg. You drop it cracks, right? And the goal is to get a whole egg from point A to point B without dropping it and cracking it. And that's what it feels like sometimes. It's like the stress of like trying to balance or watching somebody else, trying to guide somebody else with the egg and them not drop it. Because when they drop it, then sometimes you got to start back over from the beginning. Or it feels like that, where it's like, all right, you know what I mean? All right, so we wanted to reach this goal, and for whatever reason, you may be detached from reality, or you may not see it, or your symptoms you know what I mean? You just can't process how to do X, Y, and Z, or what X, Y, and Z means for you, even though you have the goal. You got to do X, Y, and Z to get to the goal. So, like, it's just...
the way your shoulders just dropped on that side.
Because it can be frustrating. Like, you spend... Because sometimes you spend days having multiple conversations. My back itch. But like you spend days or weeks or whatever having multiple conversations and trying to goal set and goal plan and, you know what I mean, strategize and all these good things and set things up, make phone calls, and a person has to go through 1, 2, 3, 4 steps and then get to whatever they need. And that sometimes there's a point where you have to wait. And any given point in that process, they can drop the ball and not want to pick it back up.
Yeah.
And it's like frustrating to do all that work and to see somebody have to restart, or restart and be like, you know what, fuck it.
Is there a certain point your job feels like nagging more than making progress in someone's life? As a social worker?
Yes, and it's frustrating. Cause it's like, what? I don't have kids. I don't want to, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like that feeling of like having to like constantly nag somebody about something that is for their own well-being. It's like, damn, dog, I don't really, and I don't want to bother you. If you don't want to do it, I don't want to tell you, I can't force you to do it, first of all. Yeah. I can't. So it's like,
I already don't got that.
Yeah, I already don't have the position to like tell you what to do. All I can do is, and I think when you shift the perspective from nagging them to just being like, all right, so what do you want? I'm here to help. Yeah. So whatever that means, yeah, I'm willing to meet you in the middle and help. But you know what I mean? Like I know I have an idea of what may be helpful, but if it's not your goal, then what does it matter? And when I approach it from that perspective of kind of detaching what I think
but it's necessary. It's necessary to be said out loud. Yeah. Because like as much as you do want to care, and you know when it comes to those jobs, you don't want to bleed too much on the job. Like I tell folks when it comes to stuff we do with mental health and community outreach, it's not our job to bleed when we're helping people. You can bleed behind a closed door. You can stop the bleeding with bandages when it comes to us. But it is our job to frame things better for people and give them the tools that they need. And if they want to use the tools, it's up to them. But we gave them the tools. Because in our community, we didn't have the tools across the board. Like there's a lot of things I've had to unlearn coming up to this point. And I'm pretty sure you can say the same thing for yourself. And like there's certain tools that we had that it may be bad for a certain community, but for us, those tools worked and it got it done. But getting things done doesn't mean it was the only way it could have been done. Let's let that simmer.
Let's let that simmer a little bit.
Yeah.
No, that's real, dog. That's real.
It's alright, now take your time. You know, it's meant to be a conversation, bro.
I'm sorry.
that hit?
Yeah, dog.
Yeah. So
reframing things and be, like the more we can be of assistance and reframe things and help redirect. That's really the whole job.
Do you think there's an art behind reframing things?
Yeah, but I think that extends to your ability to relate.
Mm-hmm.
I like
so
the art behind it is really just, can you communicate effectively in a way that somebody else is going to get? Are you patient?
Mm-hmm.
And are you like persistent? Yeah, but even within limits, because you know what I mean, like the nagging thing. You don't want to be hounding somebody down about something.
You're doing too much. You're like, nah, you're doing too much, bro. And you're like, nah, but this is what you need. I'm doing this much because this is what you.
Yeah.
No, I'm doing this much because this is what the situation dictates. Because I do remember that with the outreach that we do, you do have to sometimes make it about the situation and not about them.
Yeah.
For them to see what's going on.
Man.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can backfire, or that has consequences.
What do those consequences look like?
So, like, sure, helping somebody in a way that supersedes their perspective, but you know what I mean, within the realm of their needs, but supersedes their perspective. Maybe they can't see how it's helping them, or you know what I mean. They didn't I didn't ask for this, or whatever. But you know what I mean. The moment dictates that if you are unsafe to yourself and or other people. You know what I mean? There's a process that sometimes takes a little bit of autonomy away from you in order to stabilize, in order to give you the opportunity to be stabilized once again and regain that autonomy and not to be a harm to yourself and not be a harm to other people. But when you do that, like, especially like in my position, granted I can't write it. It's a thing called, it's a form, or it's a process labeled FD12, where where an individual is danger to himself or others. They FD12 is filed with multiple bodies, and a person is basically hospitalized forcibly, whether they want to or not. They're taking,
and that also means they relinquish their rights.
Yeah. For
but they didn't have a choice.
Up to 72 hours.
This is what had to happen for that situation.
Yeah, like 40, sometimes 24, 48, 72 hours of a person being held involuntarily. They may be medicated in order to calm down and stabilize. The problem with that is, if I'm a part of that process, like I have a client and they're going through a crisis. Where you know what I mean? They're hurt. They're willing to hurt somebody, or they're on the brink of hurting themselves, or they're just a danger to themselves and are you know what I mean? Unable to like recognize how they're an immediate danger to themselves or putting themselves in danger. I mean, I'll call my supervisor, or even like maybe a crisis response team, and we engage with the client in order to get them stable, get them to help. We may call the police in to be involved because that's the protocol for it, and have them escorted to a crisis facility where they can be stabilized, maybe possibly medicated, maybe even rerouted to a facility for longer term care, a few more days than the facility may hold you for, right? If I'm involved in that process with a client, they're having a traumatic moment, they're having a difficult moment, they're having a crisis of some sort. Yeah. And I'm involved in the process of them, and maybe they don't like the cops, maybe they don't believe that they're having a crisis, they don't see and they don't understand how they're a threat to themselves or others. They don't like the idea of being, you know what I mean, forcibly grabbed or held against their will or medicated against their wishes. All of that, and it can lead to a deterioration of the rapport that I have with my client. So now they're less likely to trust me because they're gonna look at me like you know what I mean. You violated me. They can look at it like a violation. It may not. You know what I mean? Based on the facts and the situation and protocol and all of these other things, it may not legitimately be a violation because
to them in their mind.
But to them, from their perspective, dog, you just took my autonomy away. You called the cops on me. Like they held me in this building for X amount of days or X amount of hours. They gave me medicine. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't be out doing whatever I wanted. Like you violated me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to work with you. Or like I'm less likely to work with you. Or I don't want to tell you certain things now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's valid.
It's valid. Yeah, it sucks. Valid. And it's like, it sucks because like I did what I was supposed to do. Like, because why would I let you be in a position? Especially in the position that I work, why would I let you be in a position where you can continue to be a danger to yourself or somebody else?
Yeah.
I can't legally. I can't even really do that.
Does the book cover all situations that you're in that you guys have to abide by when it comes to your job?
What do you mean?
As a social worker, when it comes to handling emergencies, would you say that there's better ways situations can be handled, or is that basically the only way? Because, like, for example, so I don't share this information with anybody, so it's going to be the first time I've said this out loud, but I've been called by a little bit under 40 people who were dealing with suicidal bouts. Like, on the break, I was the number, they called me. And I had to call the therapist who I work with, and I said, hey, I have an associate on the line. Because whether it's an associate or friend, you still have to protect who the person is as you handle it. They're thinking about unaliving themselves or hurting people around them because of how dark of a place that they're in. What does the right way, what are the steps to handle this? Because a lot of folks have hit me up and say, you work with therapists, I need a therapist because right now, today, I'm thinking about doing it. And it's like, nah, you needed a therapist way before we got here, man. You had a whole race. You put your outfit on, you put your shoes on, you did the stretches, you've been practicing coming up to this day for like days, weeks, months. And you call me right before you at the finish line, like
urgency.
That ties my hands in terms of what we can really do for you and impact. So like, what does that look like for you guys? Like, do you look for signs, or is there do they only give you advice on the emergency and not advice leading up to the emergency?
So like, that's the point of being like actively engaged. Like I work as a part of assertive community treatment, ACT services. So it's like we have to try to meet with, touch base with, or coordinate care for or around a client not even once, like 2 to 3 times a week. So in those touch points, like sometimes I'm just going out and I'm just pulling up on somebody's house just to check in and sit around the house for a little bit, and we talk about goals. We'll talk about you know what I mean, how the symptoms have been affecting them, if at all, lately. Talk about medication. Well, it depends on what a person may be experiencing. I work with people who have psychiatric diagnoses, different types. Sometimes people have major depressive disorder. Some people have schizophrenia. Some people have schizoaffective disorder. Some people have BPD. So, you know what I mean?
Nah, and that's why I tell folks it's very dangerous to say what people have when you're not sure if that's what they have. Like recently, I had a friend who we just had a very intimate convo, and he was diagnosed with ADHD from when he was younger due to like what the parents were saying, what the teachers were saying more than the parents. And it turns out that he went to get a diagnosis from a doctor that he's seen, and they say, actually, you don't have ADHD. And I'm like, I'm imagining being diagnosed and having to deal with ADHD plus that medication and finding out actually that's not what you have. You have something else.
And you've been taking ADHD medication for
and you're talking about 20 years. You're talking about 20 years deep. You're not talking about like a couple of years here and there. You're talking about like, that's lifetimes of middle school, high school, college, graduating, marriage.
Formative years.
Yeah. To like, now you're here. All in our age group.
So that does happen. And it's because I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it with clients where like a client has one diagnosis, and then you're engaging with them on a regular basis, and you're like,
nah, there's something else.
I mean, they like sometimes like they might have that, but that's not all. That's not all this happening with this person. And it's like I'm not a clinician that can diagnose, so
you're not allowed to. But you recognize. But it's like
I recognize things. I'm like.
Especially when you're in the field. You recognize them more clear in the field. On the daily.
You see people on a daily basis.
Yeah, you see them more intimately. Not just daily, you see them more intimately. And a lot of folks don't understand that. So, like, for me as an advocate, I tell folks, like, I have educated myself, but I make sure there's professionals around me. So, I ask a reference point, hey, I see this, this, and this. They're saying they may be this. Do you think that's true? And what processes do we have to go through with getting them enrolled in the right place?
Yeah.
So back to folks who are a danger to themselves, what does the rule in terms of conduct for you guys look like?
I mean, we have to report it. You know what I mean? Like, I have to report it to my supervisor. If like somebody tells me, if a client tells me they've been having suicidal ideation, but they have no plan, they don't really have any intention to do it. And, all right, so like let's set up a plan for like what's the next time we're going to talk. Hopefully tomorrow or the very next day. You know what I mean?
You want
like,
to give them a goal. You want to give them a goal, something to look forward to, instead of just leaving them with that.
Yeah, but also to work on the things that may be leading to this. If it's purely like symptomatic, it's like, all right, maybe we need to schedule an appointment for you to meet with the psychiatrist so that y'all can talk about this. And then you know what I mean. It can go from there. Maybe the medication needs to be adjusted. Or because I've had clients who report suicidal ideation, but it's really being overwhelmed by other things.
So their environment.
Yeah.
Have you been seeing those videos that I've been putting out about how important your environment is?
I have not been seeing those.
I'll send it to you later, but keep going.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But like some is like other factors coming into play, and because you know what I mean, I didn't deal with this, I didn't deal with that, I didn't deal with this, I didn't deal with that, I didn't know how to talk about them, I didn't address them, I didn't see them coming. Now they're all kind of piling up on top of me, and it's like making my life, you know what I mean, whether it be bills, rent, family stuff.
This is the person who's talking about the situation.
So like this is like, you know what I mean, they got all these different things going on, causing.
Take your time. We got the window open. Bless you.
Thank you.
You're blessed, man. You're blessed. You're beautiful and black, man. You're blessed, man. You're blessed. It's cool.
I appreciate you.
Pollen gonna come for you, man.
Anyway, so so like I've had clients where like so many things were going on that they felt overwhelmed, and they just wanted that overwhelmed feeling to end. And because they don't process, you know what I mean, in a neurotypical way, we'll say, in a
define neurotypical.
Not with any symptoms or delusions or you know what I mean, any reality distortions present. Like
if you use a big word, I'm gonna ask you to define it. Yeah.
I ain't tripping. But like I'm trying to think. There's another way. Like because whether you see something as a negative or a positive coping skill, whether it's adaptive or maladaptive, right? That's another way of looking at it.
I'll have to define that later.
Oh, adaptive. It's like maladaptive is like things that we do that help us, like we adapt to the situation, though those adaptations may not be for our benefit. It's like you know what I mean? It's like you squeezing through like a tight hallway because you suck your stomach in. It's like, all right, but if you get stuck, you stuck.
And that's going to be a lot of pressure on your organs, which is bad. Yeah.
If you can make it all the way through, all right, bet now you have to try to like recompress, but maybe your body's just, you know, you're
like how they say people can really die in the, you know, the library shelves that like move and close. People can really die in it. People didn't know that. They're like, oh no, just loosen. It's like, nah, your books, pressure, the system itself, the framing, it's dangerous.
That's
dark.
That reframes a childhood memory.
Yeah. What? Boy, you know.
Anyway,
we'll talk about that later. Yeah, go ahead.
Just playing with them as a kid. You know what I mean? Like, you get down the end, you spin the wheel all crazy, and you try to run down the line.
Yeah. And there's cases where people don't make it. Yeah, you made it though.
Gotta be fast.
Just gonna leave it at that.
Gotta be fast. Gotta be quicker than that. That's dark. But yeah, like they're just like somebody who has like something like ideation, setting up a plan for treatment is like the step, and then I notify supervisor. Somebody that's like actively reporting suicidal ideation and a plan of it and so on and so forth, then immediately telling a supervisor and trying to rope in some help that can actually, if it comes to some sort of forced hospitalization, they can do that, and I'm not like, you know, because I don't have that ability. I don't have the authority to do that.
Your advisor has the authority.
Yeah, so the supervisor and my company would be the person that would be my touch point. Like, all right, so I need some help with this, so that da.
I have a question for you.
I have an answer.
Because you have more to say.
Excuse me. Yeah, and then if it's like something like immediately dangerous as hell, like. Call the cops.
Example.
Sometimes I have to call the cops. And I call my supervisor as well.
Yeah. What's immediate danger?
Oh, like
because you know danger versus
like knife to the neck. You know what I mean? Like
okay.
You know what I mean? Like so, or like
They got the gun to the noggin.
Yeah, it's like, all right, this person is a danger.
Yeah.
Because I don't like calling. I don't like calling the cops
anymore. Yeah.
But
you've
like
escalated.
Yeah. And like, it's like I can't interfere, but so much. Like I can try to talk you off the ledge, but I need some sort of support, and it may also be a protection for myself to be like, all right, so I saw
this is above my pay grade.
This is above my pay grade, and you know what I mean. I'm calling my supervisor because you know I'm gonna call somebody to come and care, and then I may have to call the police because it's like a legal matter. And
then you need to distance yourself because that's a lot on the heart. Because you've built a relationship with this person. This is someone in your life. This is
sometimes and like almost like I don't want to call it like it's just strategic. I don't mean it any type of way for the sake of manipulation, but just knowing how things work. Like if I have to call in a supervisor to help with the situation, and like I see things going on with the clients, like they may need to be FD12. I may call in supervisor, and the supervisor will take point. So this like it can almost be a little bit of good cop, bad cop. I have the rapport, and I can like do, you know what I mean, try to all right, like let's go voluntarily to so on and so forth. Because I know that, you know what I mean, I see that you're not well right now, or I see that you're having a difficult time, and like I want you to be safe, and you know I want you to make it out of this moment, like trying to be there and be present and be caring, and not have to have a future. And not have to I can be carried while somebody else can be stick, so that if because it's happened where like a client was having a very tense moment, and then as soon as it came time to assess them, to hospitalize them, they stepped all the way back from the ledge entirely, and was like, you know what I mean. So like, if I play too hard, in my position of being like, dog, you need to go to the hospital. Like you need to be better. This is unacceptable. This is unsafe. You know, if I come too hard from that particular angle, and it doesn't go through, now they're looking at me like I'm the ops, and which is horrible for rapport because I still need because after this you still need help.
And you guys are still going to have a face-to-face with each other.
But if I can pull in my supervisor to do some of maybe the dirty work, and my supervisor isn't constantly in the field and constantly front line with the client, then when if it goes well, it goes wrong, or the client feels violated or whatever, some of that violation may get pushed more onto my supervisor than onto me. So that I can at least have the conversation next to be like, you know, like, even if it's like I'm defending my supervisor, like, hey, so in any situation where this and this is happening, they're going to have to do that. We like, but at least I can have that next conversation with them, as opposed to I've had clients where they were being FD12s, and because it's a crisis, they dance to themselves.
Know what FD12 is?
Yeah, some of them do. Some of them have been through it a couple times, so they're like, they just know it. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like you've experienced it once, you hear somebody say it. I ain't forgetting that. So, but I've had clients where the process was started, it didn't go through, and then they look, and now they're avoiding calls from the parties involved. I wasn't involved, so I was able to, you know what I mean, be a part of the aftermath and figuring things out from there, and hopefully shepherding them back towards some treatment and consistent engagement. But like, you know what I mean, if you're involved and your calls are being ignored, it sucks. Because like, like you were a danger to yourself, and I tried to get you help, and I care enough to like possibly risk our relationship in order to get you help. And then you're not going to accept my phone calls, and you still need help. So it's like,
that's the reality.
Yeah, and I work in a team setting, so sometimes when that happens, you just kind of like tag out and have somebody else tag in.
Does your team ever look at you like, man, what's up with you, man? You used to be that guy. Things done changed. You letting it get to you too much.
I mean, everybody kind of has. It's like there's no. I feel like if somebody were to come at me with that type of energy, like a coworker, I'm not a statue. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not made of stone. Sometimes. You said what?
You don't just tell them you can see you outside.
It depends on how they're saying it. Like, you know what I mean? Like if they're saying it, like,
sometimes you just got to.
I'm gonna say if they're saying it like you want to fight. It's like I'm probably not gonna ask you to step outside.
Yeah.
I want my job. You can kiss my ass.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
like all communication is really just based on the work.
Yeah.
I don't really want to have any personal conversation with you. You can say hi and bye in the halls because I'm nice enough to like.
But I'd rather you keep it.
Yeah.
If
they give me the whole, oh dog, you fucking up, I'm gonna be like,
what?
Where?
We all
prove
clock
it.
in. We all clock in.
Yeah, I say first of all, you're gonna have to prove it.
Yeah.
Second of all, get out my face.
Yeah.
Cause now
I look down. I was like, you didn't just take that apart, did you?
Put it back together.
When it comes to cool, because when my editor does that, just gotta make sure I line it up correctly on the audio side. When it comes to being in the process of dealing with an emergency, how do you leave that at work after going through something like that?
When I'm not at work, I don't really try to think much about work.
No, I get
that's how I've learned to like set the boundary. Is that like, especially if it's not, because I have to do documentation when I'm not out in the field. So like, if it's not the documentation part,
when it comes to social work,
I try not to think about it, so that I just don't want it consuming me. I don't want it consuming too much of my time and my day.
Have you seen it consume you before?
Like, yeah, it was just sit on you.
To it?
Yeah, like hearing about somebody wanting to kill themselves, it's heavy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just heavy.
Yeah.
Hearing about trauma that somebody experienced like 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago that still haunts them, it's heavy.
Yeah.
Especially like in the middle of it, please don't hurt yourself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to take care of, you know what I mean? I'm worried, like, I have to call the police sometimes, and it's like, I'm worried about them overreacting or doing something stupid. I'm worried about this person and them not, you know what I mean? Them not, or like them getting the help that they need, and them not overreacting or not going overboard, and like help coming in enough time, and then them following through, and them being accepted, and it's a lot. And then hearing, you know what I mean, this trauma, that trauma, watching somebody hurt themselves, or you know what I mean, trying to dodge somebody that wants to hurt you, and you know what I mean. It's like, dog.
Have you ever come across
turning my brain off when I get home?
Have you ever come across a situation where you see what's going on with them and you're like, hey, whatever's going on with this certain person or particular situation, this is beyond therapy?
I've been in situations like that. I think the only time I really feel like that is when I can see that they're lucid, they're using their rationale, and they're choosing to do something. You know what I mean? Because it's one thing when like somebody is a victim of their symptoms or a victim of circumstance, and they're just kind of like suffering through it, or you know what I mean? Like, it happens. All right, like, but sometimes when it's like you wilding out on purpose, you're choosing to do things.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I mean, it depends on how you feel about therapy, because like, therapy can help you choose certain things differently, or see the benefits. You know, like be better at cost benefit analysis type things, or consequence analysis. And then some people that like, there's just no amount of medication is gonna it's gonna like fix or help with a certain help to get to a certain level of functioning, and that's disappointing. It can be really disheartening to think, but also that's one of the first things that I remember hearing in like Psych 101, or like it was a therapy class. It was one of my therapy. I think it was one of my therapy classes in school. Is that like you're not going to be able to help everybody. And it sucks because you never really know which person that's going to be. It's like you going to have to fuck around and find out who you can't help. Yeah. By trying to help them. Yeah. And also you can't help people more than like, because there's a certain amount of just like, because like they have autonomy, they have a certain amount of rights up to you know what I mean, like certain situations. But for the most part, clients have rights. They don't want to take their medication. They don't got to take their medication. Yeah. So it's like, there's no amount of therapy that's going to get them to be like, oh, I'm going to take my meds. They have to choose it. Yeah. Like, no matter how many times you say it, they have to choose it. So if they're not choosing it, is really only with so much you can do.
That says everything right there.
Because, you know what I mean, their functioning is going to be hampered by a certain level of symptomatic behavior. If they're not taking the meds to limit or control or mitigate the symptoms, then they may be caught in a bit of a cycle with the symptoms and the behavior that the symptoms cause and all of that. So all you can do is be present.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Make yourself available. Get over the fact that they called you a bitch or a bitch ass nigga, because that happens.
Yeah.
And it's just like, all right.
Find ways not to take it personal.
Cause and rationalizing it as you're not in your right mind, and you don't know me. Not really. You know what I mean? You know me as Mr. Dwayne. You don't really know me, so you calling me a bitch means really next to nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, there's no consequence here. Sometimes clients know that they can say whatever out the side of their mouth all crazy, because you're in a position where if you were to like really meet them at that level, then you can get in trouble. And so it's like, so sometimes they saying stuff knowing that they're not gonna get in trouble, or there's not an accountability for it. So like, rather than take it personal, I'll address it like, I can't really address you in that level, like. So you going there doesn't actually get to the meat of the problem.
Yeah, and it's not gonna get you what you want.
You're not mad at me.
Yeah.
Not really. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you a bitch. You're not mad at me. You can't be. I didn't do anything but come here to help you.
Yeah.
And especially like there are situations where I haven't done anything. I I barely said anything, and it's already disrespecting. Like,
just off the top of it.
This has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
This has to do with symptoms, or it has to do with like, sometimes they're irritable because of so many other things. I'm not going to internalize that. Yeah. Let me know when you're ready. I'm not going to sit around and let you disrespect me. So I'll be over here. Yeah. Or I'll be back tomorrow. To help.
And we can figure it out from there.
Yeah, like, but if you want, you know what I mean? Like, I really try not to take it personal, because it's not about me. 9 times out of 10, it's not about me.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get back to a more positive note, because we just about to get some real nigga shit. How do you feel about where the system is of help and accessibility? The reason I ask that is, I kind of get annoyed at messages around not just suicidal ideation, but like reach out for help. And it's like, most people who reach out for help talk to their moms or dads or aunts and uncles or cousins or whoever is available. And family doesn't have the education. And what I've come to realize is a lot of family isn't willing to make the right calls to get the education either. So a lot of people, when they view help as getting that person help and there's nothing else I need to do. But for me, with my work, I realize, there's work everyone has to do. So when that person gets help, how do you reapproach that person as a family or as a community? Like, what does putting your arms around them actually look like? Because a lot of people assume you're the one with the problem, and what we find in our work that we do is they may be the problem that's blooming the most publicly, but there's a source for everything. I feel like that one was a very real question for you.
I don't got the answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you brought up a bunch of different things at once. I'm not gonna hold you.
No, I got you. but that's what I see. Like, you gotta remember, my questions are coming from like, I'm doing this enough to say, okay, I see it. I get what it is and what it's not. Like, when you get therapy, when you come home, what are the people around you saying or how they treating you does make a difference in, like, how far that work goes.
Yeah, but I feel like that's
just part of it.
That's work for families to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think that it'd be nice.
In an ideal world.
In an ideal world, there would be spaces where there's more dedicated outreach to educate people on a mass scale about mental health. And I think that people using their platforms, like on social media platforms and whatnot, to like raise awareness or share concepts, share resources, is like a step in the right direction.
But
there's like lots of gaps.
There's
a lot of gaps.
Yeah, and it's not just money. There's a lot of gaps.
Like resources to do that type of thing. Because if there was outreach, if we're talking about outreach, you know what I mean, to educate people, who's paying for the staff to go do this? Who's paying for the pamphlets? Who's paying for the person to source who's paying for the person to do the man hours to source all the information and pool it together to make those pamphlets? And you know what I mean? And like, it's just a lot. What areas needed the most? Who's doing the surveying? Like, and all of that costs money, and then it's just a matter of who's doing it and where are they doing it and how do you, I think there's just so many platforms, so many companies, organizations, so many resources that are out there that people they're just insular. Nobody knows
the problem. How it's marketed and how it's kept to a certain demographic. To me, from what I see, is a problem.
It's like a scarcity thing.
Because when people do show up to get help in some of those places, sometimes those people aren't treated right on purpose, and they end up saying, "Why would I ever come back here?"
There's a lot of gaps, bro.
That would have been like the perfect.
Because like there's just resources. He's funny.
No, it is like dead serious.
Because like there are resources, and then sometimes there are resources that like cover damn near, like they cover so much, but there's a gap right between. You know what I mean? It's like that
they
space.
Don't connect.
They don't connect.
That's why I never got into healthcare. Like, so in high school, I used to be a patient advocate for like all 4 years before I graduated and went to college, right? And the where I was a patient advocate for, half of the clients that I served were HIV clients. So this is like way before becoming an adult. I saw it up close, how they were treated, the language people used, their family members' relationships towards them. And I always wondered, like, what does better look like for these people? Because, like, as a person, you keep track of how many times people betray you and let you down. We all got a clicker of, look, they let me down one more time. It's F this. You feel what I'm saying? And now that I'm in the mental health field as an advocate, and I tell people, you need advocacy. As much as it's great that we now have therapists, but on the black side, the numbers just don't make sense. We're not there yet on the black side. When it comes to social work, we are not there on the black side. When it comes to, and people of color side too, not just black, but people of color also. And folks are like, well, just become a therapist. It's like, no, because what you're telling me is I now need to limit my workload to a specific group of people, but you're not going to accomplish as much as someone who's advocate money. But in advocacy, I could create messaging and education for people to have. So by the time they reach out, 1/4 of the homework is at least done, or there's ideas planted of what they may come across. And then you guys, in terms of social workers and therapists and everything else, you guys reinforce the messaging that I've put out there, and the people who are your clients get to see the results of that. So, like, I'm the person who literally just opens the door for people to walk through anytime you're going into a building. No matter the building is, I got you. You don't got to do this. And then you walk through and you're like, hey, man, that door was kind of heavy. Yeah, but he does it for you already. And then you guys got the heavy lifting on that side. So what I've seen with my work is I have people, on average, I usually have 10 people that come back to get home safe or tap into the resources, whether it's we're able to pay for their therapy, or who would be a good therapist to reach out to, or who would be someone that they can talk to about what they're going through or what the right steps look like, which for me is great because that's, on average, we're in our 5th year right now, that's 20 more people per year than when nobody was asking about the stuff and they were just looking at what I was doing from a distance. But the problem I'm running into now is a lot of these companies and hospitals, they're like, well, you don't work with or for us. And it's like, you guys have someone that's in the community that's doing your job better than you, and you don't want to work with them because they're not on the books. That doesn't make sense. Even with HIPAA laws, and I'm very aware of those laws, that doesn't make sense. Because I don't want to know the client's information. I just want to be the one that bridges the hospitals and these other institutions and organizations. But the pushback is weird because it's like, at the end of the day, even if you're a business, it's supposed to be about helping the people and creating the right language for that. And a lot of those people don't want to help the people. It is for profit.
It's just business.
Yeah.
And like sometimes from that perspective, I think that there will be more resources, more people in it and doing all the things if there was more money in it. Just because
But, and this is going to sound messed up, if there was more money, they would move the goalposts.
I'm willing to believe that too.
Because that happens.
There's a lot of red tape.
It's a lot. It's more red tape than necessary. A, there's a lot of red tape, but B, there's not enough people who want to go back to change where the red tape is placed and how it functions and works. They're like, there's stuff for that already. And you're like, but this doesn't work. Well, it exists. Well, you just don't want to acknowledge that it doesn't work because you want to focus on something else. Got you.
There's a lot of people with vested interests.
Hey, this has been a good episode.
Oh, got the answer, bro. That's a dark way to end it.
Thank you for pulling up on Mental Health Monday. Hope you guys have enjoyed the talk. Do you want to tell the folks where you at if they want to reach out to you, or do you want to just keep it to this interview? Because like, when you guys come here, if you don't want your private lives to be random people DMing you, that's fine. That's what Get Home Safe's for.
Yeah,
because I get that. You feel me? I get that. Like that's why I tell
like
people,
my music
hey,
page, like all of my socials is just for music or a presentation of my music
that
stuff.
Way. That's your
and
outlet.
My private life.
That's your dream. Like keep it that way.
And I'm not on socials outside of like music. And sometimes like people that know me and I'm like interacting with them. Yeah. But for the most part, I'm not there for like social. I try to keep my professional stuff.
I tell folks, I'm like, look, this isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm glad at what we've done. I look forward to what's next, but like, not everyone needs to do what I do. You know, I'm good with boundaries. I'm good with, hey, like when folks see me, and that happens. A lot of folks hit me up and they're like, you know what you should do? And I'd be like, yo, how about you should shut the fuck up? Because like, I've been doing this by myself and with the people that I've worked with for 4 to 5 years, and I only take advice from them or people adjacent to me that are doing the work because we know what the sacrifice looks like. And 9 times out of 10, we know what rejection looks like way better than anybody else in the room. And you get rejected more than you get far in this business. So
for every yes, there's like 10 no's. Yeah, at least.
And it comes with it. It comes with it. I tell them it's not for everybody, man. But we're making a difference, and it's one person at a time. Of course, it's all the way at the back of the hall.
I'm sorry.
Great bathroom. No, you're good. You're good, man. The finest of tinkles.
You said a great bathroom?
It's a great bathroom. Yeah. It is. When you go in there, you're gonna be like, hey, this is nice. Now you gotta push that towards yourself. You gotta pull it towards yourself and then slide it to the left.